Hey guys, in today's video I will be reviewing the newest Mandalorian episode, The Siege. Let's start by talking about my first impressions of the episode. This episode was pretty good. It had amazing action sequences and built the lore of the Mandalorian series. It definitely had its boring parts, but the important thing was that this episode moved the story of the Mandalorian further ahead. It dived into things we never seen in canon before. The ending sequence with Moff Gideon was by far my favorite scene of the episode, maybe even of the entire series. Also, it is confirmed that those troops at the end of the episode are Dark Troopers from Legends. This is confirmed by descriptive audio on Disney+. So the big thing that I like about this episode is how it's gonna set up episodes in the series to come. We know that Moff Gideon is building an army of Dark Troopers and is going to try to reacquire the child. If he does this, his plans will most likely succeed. So that is where the plot is headed right now. The next episode will most likely end up tying Ahsoka into the plot, which will be amazing to see. So as far as a rating goes for this episode, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. A great episode that will be vastly important to the rest of the Mandalorian series. So now that I have touched on my first impressions of The Siege, let's move on to the strengths of the episode. Firstly, the episode had some thrilling action. It does start out a little slow with Mando talking to Cara and Greef for the first 10 minutes. But it speeds up fast. They have to take down a thought-to-be-abandoned Imperial outpost. This outpost is where all of those stormtroopers came from all the way back in chapters 7 and 8 of the series. They get there and Mando quickly realizes this outpost is not abandoned. They then have to blow the place up and get out of there with their lives. This is another really fun storyline to watch. I like seeing Mando back with Greef and Cara again. These are the characters that made the first season of the series so great. Bringing back those great characters that the writers developed is a great way to make a great episode. I would say another big strength of the episode is the lore behind it. The first hint of lore that we get is when Mando, Cara, and Greef are raiding the Imperial outpost. As they are evacuating the outpost, they come across a room with 2 Imperial officers. Although they are not Imperial officers, we know this because of the fabric they have stitched into their work clothes. This is roughly the same marking that the clones on Kamino in Attack of the Clones have stitched into their clothing. So I would say it is pretty much confirmed that these guys are cloners working for the Empire. As Mando, Cara, and Greef enter the room, one of the cloners tells the other cloner to destroy it. This implies that there is some highly valuable cloning information that they don't want anybody getting their hands on. The good guys take down the bad guys with these. Mando then realizes what this room is, a lab. The whole Imperial base's purpose is cloning. During this scene we see the failed clone in the lab. One of the clones that the main characters look at for a while has some remarkable similarities to Supreme Leader Snoke. The clone has the same cut in his forehead as Snoke does. Also, the clone's left ear closely relates to what Snoke's left ear looks like. However, the Imperial base ended up getting blown up, so the Empire must have had the code to that clone stored away. So although that clone wasn't the body of Snoke, I believe that they used the same code for that body that they are gonna use to make Snoke. So that is some really cool stuff. The Rise of Skywalker never gave any backstory on how Snoke and Palpatine were cloned. It was very annoying that we didn't get answers to those questions. But it looks like the Mandalorian series is going to go deep into explaining the cloning process. A lot of people are very skeptical about where the plot is going. They don't want the Mandalorian to have any connections to the sequel trilogy. Personally, I am 100% fine with the Mandalorian having some connections to the sequels. If the Mandalorian can make the sequels somewhat enjoyable for me, then that is a big win. Now let's get back to the lore of this episode. As Mando is observing the failed clones, the Mithril tells Mando that he has found a hologram. The group then listens to the hologram. This hologram is of the cloning scientist from chapter 3. The cloner explains that he was taking blood from the child. He says that it got to a point where he couldn't take any more blood from the child without the child dying. But what does Moff Gideon want the child's blood for? That still remains a mystery. Mando realizes this recording was from 3 days ago, which then leads to him finding out that Moff Gideon is still alive. Mando then races back to get Baby Yoda. The ending to this episode is absolutely amazing. The ending opens on an Imperial ship. This one is big and full of Imperial officers. Before this I didn't know the Empire was so organized at this point in the Star Wars timeline. It is revealed that one of the mechanics who fixed the Razor Crest was working for the Empire. The mechanic placed a tracker on the Razor Crest. So now Moff Gideon and the Empire will know exactly where Mando is. This is a scary dynamic. The cool part of the ending was seeing Moff Gideon. An Imperial officer brings the information about the tracker on Mando's ship to Moff Gideon. He then replies in a sinister tone, "We will be ready." This gets me so hyped for the future episodes of this season. We then get a look at the room that Gideon is in. It is a hangar full of some sort of troopers. As I mentioned earlier, descriptive audio on Disney Plus reveals that those troopers in the hangar are Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers are not living beings, they are droids. Dark Troopers come from Legends. They are highly advanced and deadly to anyone who gets in their way. This is a considerable threat to Mando and the child. These aren't just some stormtroopers anymore, these are very dangerous droids. This gets me very hyped for the next few episodes. Let's move on to the weaknesses of the siege. First of all, the episode starts super slow. The first 10 minutes is just a lot of talking and not much is going on. When they attack the base is when it starts getting good. But 10 minutes is a lot of time for a 30-minute episode. So that first boring 10 minutes leaves a smear on the episode. Also, the Mythrol is super annoying. I understand that his character is designed to be annoying. But sometimes it goes a little too far. For the most part, the Mythrol's dialogue is terrible. It just makes you hate his character even more. Hopefully we will never have to see him again. There is one thing that I have mixed feelings about. The Mandalorian is starting to have major connections to the sequels. It looks like the Mandalorian is trying to fill in some plot holes that the sequels created. If the show goes down that path, I don't know if it will be a good thing or a bad thing. A positive is that the lore behind the sequels is fairly interesting. Getting to explore that topic would be a good direction for The Mandalorian as a series. However, I am afraid of one thing happening. I am afraid that maybe the writers of the show will try too hard to cover up the mistakes of the sequels and it will make the show uninteresting. If The Mandalorian goes in the direction of the lore, it will be fine. Hopefully this is the case. Altogether, this was a great episode and this season has been tremendous so far. Make sure to comment if you like the direction The Mandalorian is going in. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button. Also, please consider subscribing. See you next time on Star Wars Ranked.